saying, okay, yeah, we probably need to lose some weight here, honey. We probably need to lose some weight, husband. Instead of us looking at that other vineyard, be like, hey, I'd rather much go over there and see that vineyard, visit it, taste its fruit, see what it's like, and leave the vineyard God has entrusted you. That is a grave mistake for many marriages, when a man or woman leaves the marriage vineyard to plow on someone else's field. Because that's what it is. If we're honest, we see something that we find attractive and desirable, and we forsake the vineyard that we have in pursuit of a taste of, what we think is a greener pasture, instead of seeing this vineyard, this husband or wife, as a treasure that God has entrusted to us, that we have been commanded to cultivate, to work, and to plow into our own field, the vineyard that God has given unto us. Wife, you should be plowing in your own field. Your husband, you should be watering your husband. You should be uprooting, of course, with respect for your husband, but speaking the truth in love to each other. And I believe this is very important for the marriage dynamic, if we're talking about building a marriage that endures the tests of life. That, because to be honest with you, that to me, it's not just about getting married and entering into the covenant of marriage. It's about keeping covenant. Once you enter into the covenant, you have to be faithful to keep the covenant from, for as long as you shall live. That is God's plan. That is what God desires. And so, it should be, in my opinion, when you have a helpmate, you have your vineyard that God has entrusted to you. Like, you should be plowing in your own field, and it should be, a submission, a mutual submission, that to one another. When a husband grabs your chain, starts pulling on it, right? Saying, come here, I need to plow in my field, and I need your help. You know what I mean? Like, a wife should be submissive to that, and should be like, you know what? I'm ready to plow in my field too. Matter of fact, I'm going to take control. You know what I mean? I'm going to water my field, water my husband. I'm going to sow good seed into my wife. I wonder, when you begin to see your husband or your wife as your vineyard, that you have a responsibility to steward, to grow, to cultivate, to water, to seed. When you take responsibility for your garden, I wonder how much fruit will come up from that. That good fruit that a husband, if you spent the last 5 years of your life cultivating beauty and growth and life in your bride, you're investing in her. And the same thing with you as wives. You're investing in cultivating life and beauty into your husband. And now when that fruit begins to blossom, you're eating that fruit. And I'm just curious to see what happens to us when we begin to see things through God's eyes. God's people is his vineyard. God's people is his treasured possession. As a child of God, you are a treasured possession. You are God's vineyard, and we must work to cultivate growth. And so as a husband, when you're cultivating growth in life, watering your vineyard, your wife, sowing good seeds into your wife for fruitfulness, for a harvest that will spring up inside of her. And so you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to the treasure that God has entrusted to you, to cultivate her for growth. You, as a wife, have a responsibility to cultivate and steward the husband, you know what I mean, and to build him up so that you both are edified, that you both are built up together, you know what I mean. And so one of the last things, so I talked about the children of God being the treasures of the kingdom. I spoke about how a husband and wife, God's people, you know what I mean, are God's vineyard, and what the work that we must do together as husband and wives to cultivate life in each other. You both have marital duties under the marriage covenant. There's work to be done as a wife. And it's sad to say, but a lot of women don't understand. You think you're just going to get married and just have sex once every week and life is good. No, there's work that has to be done in yourself, in each other. But you know, there's growth that has to happen in the both of you. And you must work together to do it. You must work together. And so one of the scriptures that also I have to talk about when we're talking about marriage is the living stones that God has called us.